right, so get this. Today we are diving into the world of cops and robbers. But we're not watching a documentary. We're breaking down a YouTube video.
Okay.
And not just any video. This one features Darren.
Right.
He's a former gang leader from Liverpool. And he is spilling the tea on how the police really operate.
It's interesting.
Like intelligence gathering, stuff you don't learn from watching TV.
Yeah.
Now you might be thinking, why should I listen to a former criminal?
Right, right.
But that's exactly why this is so fascinating.
Yeah.
He's giving us a perspective that most of us, honestly, never get to hear. A look into how the other side thinks.
It's easy to think about law enforcement and criminal activity as, like two separate worlds. But as G points out, they're constantly kind of pushing against each other, evolving, kind of alongside each other, really. And who better to sort of illuminate those lines than someone who's walked both sides of that strip, so to speak.
Totally. So a little bit about Darren. He was a high-ranking member of a pretty notorious gang in Liverpool. Did his time, and now he focuses on steering young people away from that life.
Okay.
But let me be crystal clear. We are not glorifying his past here.
Right.
What we are interested in are the insights that he drops in this video.
Yeah.
One that really, honestly, threw me, he claims that the police often know way more than we realize. Like, they're building cases sometimes for years.
Wow.
Based on, like, meticulously gathered intel.
Right. And it challenges that common assumption that, an investigation begins after a crime has been committed. G really paints this picture of ongoing surveillance where, seemingly insignificant details about your past could be used against you, down the line.
He even talks about how the police will confront suspects with, like, super specific details just to throw them off guard.
Oh, wow.
Like stuff they bought years ago.
Really?
Can you imagine being in an interrogation room and suddenly they're asking you about that pair of shoes that you bought like 5 years ago? How would they even know that?
It's true. It's a chilling illustration of how much data is actually collected about us in this digital age, isn't it? Every online purchase, every website we visit, even things like loyalty cards and reward programs, it all contributes to this kind of digital footprint.
Right.
That most people don't even realize they're leaving behind.
And this leads directly into Guy's advice about police interrogations, which he's had a front row seat to.
Yeah.
He is a huge advocate for no comment, especially in those early stages of an investigation.
Which might seem counterintuitive to some people, right?
Yeah.
You would think, well, if I've got nothing to hide.
Right.
But G argues that staying silent, especially early on, is crucial. He claims that police sometimes use these interrogations to pressure suspects into, slipping up, revealing information that they wouldn't have otherwise.
It's like a chess match where saying too much could be the move that costs you the game.
Exactly. He even suggests that by talking too much, you might inadvertently give them that missing piece that they need to build a case against you.
Right.
And that's where legal counsel is absolutely crucial, A good lawyer will advise you on, when to talk, what to disclose, and most importantly, when to exercise your right to remain silent.
So we're talking about finding this balance between transparency and this desire to cooperate, but also the very real risk of self-incrimination.
Yeah.
This is where things get really complex, like ethically and legally.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating how G, with his background, really recognizes this tension.
Yeah.
He's not advocating for just blind obstruction,
right,
but rather a more calculated approach to navigating a system that can, sometimes use our words against us.
He seems particularly concerned about the ways that technology can really trip people up.
Yeah.
He actually points out the irony that criminals often rely heavily on technology, which is the very thing that can make them kind of easy targets.
Right.
He specifically talks about burner phones.
Okay.
Something people might just associate with spy movies and covert operations, but he's saying those became obsolete in his world very quickly.
Interesting. It speaks to, I think, a larger issue, this constant arms race that's going on between, criminal activity and technology.
Right.
Criminals are always, searching for new ways to exploit technology, whether it's, encryption to shield their communications or burner phones to mask their identities or even diving into the murky depths of the dark web.
It sounds like something out of a cyberpunk novel. But how do law enforcement agencies keep pace with all of this?
It's a continuous struggle. For every technological advancement that criminals, manage to exploit, law enforcement has to develop a countermeasure.
Right.
Take encryption, for example.
Yep.
While it offers privacy and security for, everyday users, it can also be used by criminals to, shield their communications from being intercepted.
Right.
Law enforcement agencies then need to find ways to crack those encryptions, which can lead to, debates about privacy and government overreach.
So it's this constant back and forth,
Yeah.
with each side just trying to outmaneuver the other.
Exactly. And the scary part is it's not just about, like your traditional criminals in law enforcement anymore. Technology, in a way, has blurred the lines, Think about CCTV cameras, facial recognition software. These technologies have implications for everyone's privacy and security, regardless of whether you're, breaking the law or just going about your daily life.
It's almost as if we're all part of this like high-stakes game now, whether we realize it or not.
It's a sobering thought. But by understanding the rules of the game, by being aware of how this technology is being used, both by criminals and those who try to catch them, we can become more informed players ourselves.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is a key takeaway from Guy's insights. And, what's particularly striking is how Guy emphasizes the psychological aspect of all of this.
Right.
It's not just about the technology itself, but how it's used to kind of manipulate and exploit, human behavior.
Right.
He talks about how easy it is for criminals to get lulled into this false sense of security, thinking that their burner phones or their encrypted messages make them, untouchable.
Right, like they're invincible just because they've got the latest gadgets.
Exactly, and that's where they become predictable.
Okay.
G uses this great phrase. He says criminals are often daft.
Okay.
Meaning they become so reliant on these devices that they forget the basics. They leave this trail of digital breadcrumbs without even realizing it.
It's like that old saying, familiarity breeds contempt.
Right.
They get comfortable, let their guard down, and boom, they're caught on camera arguing with someone they claim they never even met, or their phone records place them at the scene of the crime.
Precisely. And it highlights this crucial point that G emphasizes throughout the video, the importance of thinking ahead.
Right.
Of anticipating the moves of your adversary.
Yeah.
For criminals, that means, being aware of the ways technology can be used against them. But for the rest of us, it's about being more, I think, mindful of our own digital footprints.
So what you're saying is, even if we're not out there, pulling off heists or anything, like, we should still be paying attention to this stuff.
Absolutely, because the reality is we're all leaving a digital trail, whether we realize it or not. Every online transaction, every social media post, even our location data, it's all being collected and stored somewhere. And while that data can be used for good, like, catching criminals or preventing fraud, it also has the potential to be misused.
Okay, now that is a bit unsettling. It's like we're living in a world where someone's always watching,
right?
Even if we don't know it.
In a way, yes. But instead of getting paranoid, I think it's more about being informed.
Okay.
The more we understand about how our data is collected and used, the better equipped we are to protect ourselves. And that starts with awareness.
So where do we even begin? It seems like such a massive, complex issue.
You're right. It can feel overwhelming, but there are simple steps we can all take.
Okay.
Start by, reviewing the privacy settings on your social media accounts.
Right.
Be mindful of what information you're sharing publicly. Think twice before clicking accept on those cookie banners.
Right.
They're not just about, personalized ads. They're also tracking your browsing habits.
It's amazing how much we just click through without really thinking about it, right?
It's true. We're constantly bombarded with these requests for our data.
Yeah.
And it's easy to become, kind of numb to it.
Right.
But it's crucial to remember that even seemingly insignificant pieces of information can be pieced together to create this really detailed profile of who we are, what we do, what we care about.
And that profile can be used for all sorts of purposes, some of which, we might not be comfortable with.
Exactly. And this is where I think Guy's perspective becomes particularly relevant. He talks about how how criminals themselves are constantly on the lookout for vulnerabilities,
Right.
ways to exploit people's, trust or lack of awareness. He specifically mentions, how everyone worries about being bugged. But then he says, but we all carry a tracking device in our pockets, our phones.
He's got a point there. We're so used to having our phones with us all the time that we forget they're essentially tracking our every move.
And not just our location. Think about the conversations we have on our phones.
Yeah.
The text messages that we send, the photos and videos that we share. It's a gold mine of personal information.
Right.
That, in the long hands, could be used for, blackmail, identity theft, even stalking.
It's like we're carrying around this digital version of ourselves.
Right.
And we need to be a lot more careful about who we give the keys to.
Precisely. And that's where I think Guy's advice about no comment takes on this whole new meaning.
Okay.
It's not just about, dealing with the police.
Right.
It's about being more discerning about who we share our information with, both online and offline.
That's a really interesting connection.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that G's experiences, while extreme, offer valuable lessons for all of us in navigating this increasingly complex digital landscape.
Absolutely. He's a powerful reminder that knowledge is power. And in the digital age, that knowledge starts with understanding the tools and tactics being used, both by those who seek to exploit us,
Right.
and those who are trying to protect us.
It's about being aware of the game that's being played,
Yeah.
and learning how to play it smart. But
Yeah.
it's not just about like individual responsibility, right?
Right.
There's also a role for law enforcement and policymakers to create, a safer digital environment for everyone.
Absolutely. It's a shared responsibility.
Yeah.
Law enforcement agencies need to continue to evolve their strategies to combat, digital crime, while policymakers need to enact laws that protect our privacy without, stifling innovation.
It's a delicate balance to strike, that's for sure.
It is a delicate balance, and it's something that Guy kind of touches on when he talks about alibis.
Yeah.
He basically says that in this day and age, a good alibi is almost impossible to fabricate. He calls them allies.
Allies.
And says that things like, CCTV footage, phone records, these have made them practically obsolete.
He's not wrong. You can't outrun a security camera.
Right.
Or erase your location data.
Exactly. And it highlights this fascinating paradox, right?
Yep.
Technology has made it harder than ever to get away with crime.
Right.
But it's also made it easier for law enforcement to build cases. Sometimes even when the evidence is circumstantial.
It makes you think about all those crime dramas.
Yeah.
Right? Where they're like dusting for fingerprints and analyzing fibers.
Right.
G makes it sound like these days it's all about data trails and digital footprints.
It's the new frontier of forensic science.
Yeah.
And while that can be, reassuring in some ways, it also raises these really important ethical questions.
Right.
About privacy, surveillance, and the presumption of innocence.
Right, because if our data can be used against us, even if we haven't done anything wrong,
Yeah.
like where do we draw the line?
That's the $1 million question, and
Yeah.
there's no easy answer.
Right.
But I think G's experiences, as unsettling as they might be, offer a valuable lesson for all of us.
Okay.
We can't just bury our heads in the sand and pretend this isn't happening.
Right.
We need to be aware of the ways technology is changing the world around us, both for better and for worse.
So what's the takeaway here? Should we all just ditch our smartphones and move to a remote island with no internet access?
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
But I do think it's about finding a balance.
Okay.
We can enjoy the benefits of technology
Oh.
without blindly surrendering our privacy.
Okay. Yeah.
Be mindful of your digital footprint. Think twice before you share personal information online.
Right.
Read the terms and conditions before you click agree.
It sounds like knowledge is our best defense here.
Absolutely. The more you understand about how technology works, how your data is collected and used, the better equipped you'll be to protect yourself.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener. It's not every day you get a crash course in digital awareness from a former gangster.
It just goes to show that valuable insights can come from the most unexpected places.
Yeah.
And often it's those perspectives that challenge our assumptions.
Right.
And force us to see the world in a new light.
Well said. This is definitely a conversation we'll be continuing long after this deep dive is over. Well, to our listeners, we hope this episode has given you some food for thought. Remember, staying informed is the first step to staying safe in our increasingly digital world. Until next time, stay curious.